The trail ahead seems impossible. Your legs are burning and your lungs are screaming, and your mind is telling you to quit. But what if I told you the key to conquering any hike, whether it's a day trip or a 2-week adventure, isn't in your backpack, but between your ears? Stick around and I'm going to share with you some of the mental strategies that have helped me on countless peaks and many challenging multi-day hikes. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, I'm Mauser and welcome to the channel where we talk all things hiking. Now, I've been guiding and exploring for over 30 years, both for fun and as a hiking guide. And in that time, I have had my fair share of challenges on the trail.
I think I've severely done something to my ankle. I just slipped on a rock back there. It's very slippery. And it slid forward and bent a funny way and I heard something crack big time. I don't know if it was a stick or my leg, but it's really painful.
And today we are tackling a different kind of challenge. The mental barriers that can stop even the most seasoned hikers in their tracks. Mental toughness is definitely a secret weapon for success. Let's get into it and look at how I prepare mentally for a big hike. Today, we are tackling a different kind of challenge. The mental barriers that can stop even the most seasoned hiker in their tracks. Let's dive straight into the key strategies that will really help you push through those tough moments on the trail. And I like to think that these tips aren't only applicable to while you're out on the track hiking. Most of them can be applied to any challenging life situation. Let's get started. First up is number 1, embrace the challenge. Now, here is the truth of it. The first day of a multi-day hike, even a multi-day epic, is not going to be easy. And neither will the second or third, but it's all part of the process. And what I like to do while I'm on a hike is to focus on creating a bit of a routine that will make the days a bit more enjoyable. Give your body a bit of time to adjust to life on the track. And hopefully in your itinerary, you have allowed a bit of flexibility. You're out in the wilderness after all, you should be free and flexible. So once you're out there, just try and enjoy the surroundings, the companionship, and the experience of being just unplugged and outside. And on that first day that you're out on a multi-day trip, it can often bring a bit of excitement and anxiety, especially if you haven't been out on the track in a while. If this is your first walk in a while, you're still going to be adjusting to being away from home, being in a new environment, and putting yourself under a bit of physical pressure. You may start to doubt your preparation and your preparedness for the trip, and you're finally facing the reality of the journey you have ahead. And combat this just by staying in the moment, focusing on one step at a time, and just remind yourself of why you have embarked on this adventure. Then as you ease into day 2, that initial adrenaline has worn off, and you're probably starting to feel the effects of that first day's exertion. Your muscles may be sore, and you might find that fatigue sets in a bit earlier on the second day. So try and tackle this by starting the day with a few stretches before you get moving. Stay well hydrated, and if you're just starting out in the morning, you're feeling a bit stiff, just take short, regular breaks to start with. But most of all, what I love to do, if it's been a while since I've been out there, I just look around at where I am and why I've come out here, and I just think about that and how happy and how lucky I am to be here in this moment right now. Even in the torrential rain, if it's raining, I'm just thankful that I'm out here in the wilderness right now, especially if it's been a while. And it also helps to just, while you're thinking of embracing that challenge, think of past challenges, how you have overcome them, and how you have always end up enjoying those past walks. If this is your first big multi-day walk, hopefully you have trained on some other shorter walks beforehand. Think of past achievements you've made, both physically and mentally, and how you have coped with them. But if you embrace that challenge and think, I can do this, it will help you a heck of a lot. Secondly, you have to expect emotional ups and downs. Now, if you've been doing this a while, you'll probably be aware that hiking isn't all rainbows and sunny skies. Especially if you're hiking where I come from here in Tasmania in Australia, you are pretty much going to be guaranteed soaking rains, cold winds, wet feet, and tough climbs. And especially on those longer days of hiking, this can really lead to some emotional ups and downs.
Walter? I can't talk.
And I find from my experience that the key is to anticipate and expect these fluctuations. Remind yourself early and often that a challenging hike is going to be difficult. Expect obstacles. Be ready, open and accepting of whatever is going to come your way. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And hopefully that means you will be mentally prepared and equipped to handle whatever the trail throws at you. And I always know this. At the end of each summer here, I go normally out on a 9 or 10 day, very big hike, often in untracked terrain, and I'm preparing myself literally a couple of months in advance for what is going to be an extremely difficult walk. I am playing out the scenarios in my head, what could go wrong, what could go right, and what the weather may do. Now, I'm always thinking about the weather, and I'm preparing myself for potentially 9 or 10 days of torrential rain. Now, while I know that won't be pleasant, I know sitting here now, I look back on those adventures in the rain and I appreciate them. While at the time when I was out there, I was miserable for a little bit, but I think back on those moments quite fondly. And when it's raining, like it is here outside right now, it is pouring with rain, I think, I would love to be out on the trail in that rain. Because when you return, you look back on those moments and think, wow, I just completed that in that weather. And it does also help you prepare mentally for the next time. Next up, and this is something I really love to do when I'm out on the trail, especially in a tough situation, and that is setting micro goals. And often when I'm out on the trail and I know that tomorrow I've got a big day ahead, I'll be looking at the map and already setting myself little goals along the way throughout tomorrow's hike. I love to break down especially a big distance that I have to cover into little steps, into little micro goals. So instead of focusing on this one big day that I've got to do, I'm dividing the whole day into smaller segments. And I'm doing that for the whole hike as well. I'm breaking the whole hike down into days, and then the days I'm breaking down into segments. These could be landmarks, they could be things like lakes, peaks that you're going to stop at, rivers you're going to cross, rest stops, time intervals, and on those really long days, especially on those hot days where I'm just across quite a boring track all day of plains and button grass here in Tasmania, I will break those sections down generally into 1 hour segments. And I'll be thinking in my head the whole time, well, in an hour, I'm going to be over there. I'm going to be at this point on the map in an hour. And in 2 hours, I'm going to be at this point on the map. And in 3 hours, I'm going to have a nice little break here at this river. Then as you move along and you achieve each of these little micro goals, these little segments along the way, you'll feel a real sense of accomplishment. And that really does keep you motivated. I used this strategy particularly well last year on a 37 kilometre day, I think, in the middle of summer in the heat, and it was along plains and small hills all day. Nothing really of note to see throughout the day. We walked along a nice mountain range, that was lovely, but it was just a hot plod all day. And I used a series of creeks and rest stops along the way that day to break the whole day down into little sections. I had my morning section where by about 11 a.m. we were at our first sort of junction, which I had set as a goal in my head. The next point was the top of a bit of a climb that we had. That was my next segment. The next one was a river. The one after that was a creek. The next one after that was another river. And then I had the last section, which I completed later that evening. And I was able to complete that really big day's hiking with a full pack on the back and finishing quite happy, mind you, because I had set myself this series of goals throughout the day. And that is definitely one of my favorite strategies, is setting micro goals along the way. And very quickly, before we move on with the video, if you're enjoying this video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe down below. You can also even sign up to my newsletter. Link is in the description, as well as by scanning this QR code here, you can even sign up to the newsletter that way as well. And in the newsletter, it's a weekly newsletter where we give interesting tips, tricks, bits of gear I've been using, trail reports, all that sort of thing, as well as letting you know when we've got a course dropping, when we've got a product dropping, all that sort of good stuff. So if you're interested, then please sign up below. But now back to the video. The next strategy is to trust the process. Now, progress on a challenging hike is often very slow and steady. And it's not about instant gratification, but it's more about a compilation of moments, views, and personal growth. There's going to be times when you feel overwhelmed and emotionally exhausted. It could be due to bad weather, it could be due to physical discomfort because you've got some blisters or something like that, or you're just missing home, you're missing family. And I've experienced all of these over the years. And when this happens, just remember, it's okay to have a break. It's okay to stop and have a rest. Short rest or a moment of reflection can really reinvigorate your spirit. Take a few deep breaths, admire the view, if you've got one and it's not raining, and just take some time to relax. And if it's really a battle, what I like to do also is to think, well, this time tomorrow I'll be in this location, this time in 2 days I'll be in this location. Sort of pushing myself ahead in progress in my head, preparing me. I find that does help a lot in these moments of struggle. And always keep in mind that without these low points, the high points would not be as rewarding. When you're standing on that peak, you've gone through a bit of a battle to get there. And the view after a tough climb can often provide some of the most memorable moments of the journey. Next strategy that I am known to use is to practice positive self-talk and use keywords. Now, your internal dialogue, the conversations you are having with yourself in your head, can definitely make or break your hike. So just be conscious of, instead of saying, "This is too hard," to yourself in your head, try something like, I'm getting stronger with every step. I'm making progress. Instead of saying,
I can't do this.
tell yourself that I've overcome challenges like this before, I can do it again. I'll often find myself repeating like a mantra, like you do in meditation, to myself as I'm walking along on those particularly tough moments. When you get some of those negative thoughts creeping in, use your keyword, that your mantra, to reset your mindset. I do find this helps, especially when you're in a group. Everyone's sort of having a bit of a battle. It might be raining. It might be a really tough section of a climb. Everyone's in their own little world, in their own headspace. And this is when I really find that having that mantra really helps. And it can be anything you want it to be. I often find myself saying, you got this. You can do this. It's not far to the top. And I'll keep repeating that sort of thing over and over to myself in my head. I'll even speak it out loud sometimes. So have a think about that, and think about what's your mantra or your keyword going to be. Next strategy, and again, it's one of my favorites, and that is visualization techniques. Now, visualization is a powerful tool. You may have heard elite athletes talk about it, and it works wonders when you are out hiking as well, particularly on a tough trip. And especially where I have a view of where I'm heading today, of the objective ahead. If I can see a peak out in the distance that I need to get to that day, I will use this technique. So I'll sort of sit there in the morning when I'm getting ready, when I'm eating my breakfast, visualizing the successful day that I'm about to have. I might even just close my eyes and just picture myself over on that mountain that evening. I used this technique earlier this year when I did a particularly challenging walk in the southwest of Tasmania. We camped at one site and we could see this massive spine of rock we had to traverse that day. It really was the crux of the trip. We were all quite nervous of it, but when I used these sort of techniques to visualize myself crossing that ridge line and finishing up at the peak that we could see at the end of that day, it certainly gave me a boost of confidence. So give that a go next time you're out on the trail. The next tip is to stay present. And one of the best ways to maintain mental strength, I think, is to stay present. Engage all of your senses. Feel the texture of the trail under your feet. Stop for a moment. Smell the crisp mountain air. Have a look around. Breathe it in. Listen to the wind blowing over those trees over there. This will not only distract you from the discomfort you might be feeling at the moment, but it'll also give you a deeper connection with the environment in which you find yourself in. And it might even remind you of why you are out here in the first place. And this is something I'll often sort of hang at the back of the pack of my group that I'm hiking with, and I'll just stop for a moment and just to take it all in, have a good look around, think, I am so lucky to be out here right now. And if you use these strategies and if you practice them like any other skill, your mental toughness will get stronger. Every challenging hike, whether it's a day trip or a 2-week adventure, is an opportunity to build that mental muscle. And I like to think that the challenges of a tough hike are outweighed by the value of the experience. Expect the difficulties, embrace the emotional journey, set micro goals, and trust the process. And with these mental strategies, you'll be ready to tackle any trail, no matter how challenging. And before you go rushing out to hit the next hike, then make sure you are well prepared and well organized, and check out this video for some more tips.